Okay, well, I'm Mike, and this is Tom, and this is going to be the Truth, Lies, and Legends Hemp podcast, where we're going to discover a bunch of things about hemp. I myself have been in the hemp industry since 2009 or so. I'm absolutely fanatical about hemp and sustainability. But in that time, I've noticed just a bunch of bullshit, but also a bunch of really cool stuff. And so when Tom and I met, and we were sitting around a table one day with a bunch of really influential hemp researchers and things from all over Europe, we realized that this was a fun and cool concept. So, what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I completely agreed. I've been learning about hemp since I was 18, and it is 10 years already. And especially, yeah, with the history of hemp, there is a lot of information, but also a lot of information that is not yet confirmed, and a lot of research to be done. So it is great to build a platform together where we can seed out the truths and the lies and the legends from each other, and build a nice path towards a sustainable future with hemp.
Nice, nice. What are you doing right now? Just so everybody knows, what are you doing with hemp right now? And where are you? Where are you from?
Yeah, we are based in Holland. I am from the Netherlands as well. We are in the center of the flower bulb region, so that is where we got our first experience with drying. We make specialized drying installations for flower bulbs, for seeds, for fruit seeds, everything like that. And since 7 years, we do the same for medicinal and recreational cannabis. And my focus is on hempdrying.com, a company which is focused on drying industrial hemp for retaining the seed quality, retaining the flower quality. And for the hemp stalks, we are developing a new and improved controlled retting method, which can ensure that the hemp fibers and the hemp chive, which can be used for a lot of beautiful things, are separated as best as possible.
Awesome. Awesome.
And
For people who don't know, would you like to explain to them a little bit what redding is?
Yeah, of course. Retting is normally a natural mechanism that can happen on the field by means of dew and natural microbes in the soil, which degrade the glue component which holds the fibers of the hemp stalks and the shives of the hemp stalk together. So the hemp stalk is composed of out of two material to give it structure, a woody core and the outer bark of fibers. And they are of course very strong. So to be able to separate it mechanically, there needs to be a process which decomposes the glue-like material called pectins, and that is done by means of a retting process. Now we are dependent on the weather circumstances. So, for example, in Belgium they make beautiful linen-like materials out of hemp and flax. And again, this year the conditions were not ideal for retting. So yeah, they just couldn't get it out on time, and if it went wrong, they would have lost a lot of their harvest. So that is why there is a need for a more controlled method, which can ensure that every time you have the same quality and you can make beautiful end products out of it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, when we were so we were at a few weeks ago, the I'm going to get the name wrong, but it was basically like the Fiber Extraction Congress in Stuttgart, Germany, something to that effect. And
Natural Fiber Extraction Congress.
there we go. And one of the things that I found really interesting, so years ago, um, I don't know, late 2000s, right? I learned about Redding and what it is. And because I have always been kind of historically geeky, and like that's one of the reasons why I really like hemp is because for me there's like this moment in human history where everything that we were doing was pretty sustainable. You know what I mean? Like our societies were sustainable, our cities were sustainable sizes. We were, wearing animal and vegetable materials, leather, wool, nettle, linen, hemp, etc. Cotton, not so much. Um, but then, obviously we started to kind of industrialize and we built machines and we really ramped up processes to well, make our lives better. But at some moment, we just became hyper unsustainable, and so I love to kind of look at how things used to be done, you know, and so especially with the Netherlands and hemp, because there's a huge tradition there, especially if you look in like the 16th, 17th, 18th century, and you're looking at um, some of the best hemp fibers and hemp fabrics were coming out of there, but also some of the best artists as well who were painting with, hemp seed oil paints and hemp canvases. There was um, a researcher some time ago in the 1980s. She's still alive. I interviewed her once years ago. Um, so at least I think she's still alive, but she analyzed, I don't even know how many paintings from the Louvre in France to determine what the material was on the canvas. And a huge percentage, like way more than 50% of all of the canvases um, painted on were from hemp. And canvas, of course, coming from the word cannabis, cannabis being Latin. Um, and so, yeah, so with bast fibers, we have linen, flax fabric, and Polish. So I'm in Poland. In Poland, we call flax len, and so len feels like linen a bit, and hemp, which is konopia, of which there's only one word for it. Um, um, yeah, makes canvas, right? So cannabis, canvas. And so, yeah, for me, I'm interested in like all of the historical uses for sure, like back in the day. And this might be a legend, or there might be some truth to it, but I have been told that half of the cost of building a ship was building the ship itself, like the wood and the people and the whatever, the designer to actually build the boat itself. The other half of the cost was all the sails and ropes to actually put on the ship because it was so um what's the word I want to use? It was so labor intensive to process hemp, which was the primary use was for sailing because it resists salt water, it resists rot, like cotton canvas sails dissolve essentially from all the salt water and stuff. And so there's lots of interesting historical tropes. Like you think of the the sea captain or the lighthouse dude wearing like a yellow hat with a yellow raincoat and stuff. And like that came because people were taking their linen or canvas fabric clothing and covering it with linseed oil. And as linseed oil, which is from flax, um, ages, it yellows, And so like there's all this like historical interesting things that are super true. And so, but there's also truth and legend. And so, yeah, I wonder, as we do this series, um, how we uncover some truth, lies, and legends. And so I was telling you earlier, and I've told lots of people about it, like my number one pet peeves right now are the Ford hemp car, which was made from soy. So there could be a whole episode on that if I could find anybody who knows anything. Apparently, all the research was destroyed. According to like the Ford Museum, there's nothing about it anymore. And so, and the hemp airplane, which is just a complete falsehood, even though it was covered by USA Today, which annoys me.
Mhm.
I still
Yeah, it
see
was
it
a
on
hoax,
TV
right?
time.
Yeah,
So
give me light.
there we go.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
just like Dr. Vita Maria said, with a big legend being that hemp fibers are antibacterial and yeah, UV resistant. But she pointed out, of course, that the hemp, when it's unprocessed on the stalk, then it has those properties. But once it gets processed, yeah, those properties are lost in the processing of the hemp.
yep, yep, yep.
Yeah. And it's beautiful to learn about all the past applications and how it worked then, and then of course the transition to a more unsustainable way of doing things. But it's beautiful to see what kind of things you are doing with hemp to yeah, bring processes into the 21st century and to make new materials out of it in Poland.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest, shockers for me, as I was saying earlier, when I went off into a tangent, was, when I realized that, so dew retting here, it's the same reason why, for example, so Maciej Kowalski likes to do his winter retting, and there at Kombinat Konopny, he likes to do his winter retting because he knows with 100% certainty that the fiber quality is always going to be the same. And with, just a few hectares or acres or whatever of land, as you said, um, sometimes the fall is perfect for retting, and retting can take a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. It depends on the climate. Um, and, since we're having such unpredictable moisture levels, in Europe in general, retting is more difficult. So then field retting or dew retting is more difficult. And that's what I think is so cool about what you guys are doing and other researchers are doing is you're trying to figure out a highly scalable way to do circular closed loop water retting again, because, I was pretty shocked when I learned that water retting has been illegal in Europe for a long time. And then when we were at the Fiber Extraction Congress, when I learned that the Chinese have also stopped water retting, which really explains the drop in quality. I see, um, especially coming out of, Romania and other countries within Europe, I see a lot of yellow fibers that are being sold as hemp. And, according to the best test that we can do, um, the we are all agreeing here locally that what is being sold around here as hemp, especially if it's really blonde, and really good long fibers, is actually water retted linen, probably from Egypt. So just like in most parts of Italy, like what the researchers were talking about when we met, um, a lot of parts of the world can't even do field retting because the moisture levels are too low. So you have to do water retting. And so, yeah, water retting is pretty traditional in Egypt. Um, I'm not sure how many tons of materials processed there, but yeah, water retting's no longer happening in China, and now we're having what I consider bastardized short, gross fibers, and we should be trying to get these. We should reach for these beautiful long fibers, so that way we can also have the medium and the short fibers and the herds and stuff too. So, yeah, I want to shoot for long fibers. That's what we're trying to do over here in Poland for sure.
Yeah, get the broadest yeah, possibility of applications from the hemp stock because, like Mark Reinders has said beautifully, you cannot lengthen a short fiber, but you can always make a long fiber shorter.
Right. Right. So yeah, I'm
And
I'm really looking forward to, how these innovations turn out, because yeah, it really does make you nervous, like if you're going to plan out, a few thousand hectare farm plantation for hemp, and there's no crop insurance. A percentage of it gets destroyed by hail. A percentage of it can't be harvested because it was too much mud. A percentage of it gets under-retted. A percentage of it gets over-retted. A percentage of it went to seed and there's too much lignin in the fibers, and so there's so many variables of things that can go wrong. I was talking to the gentleman who's the president of our local like linen and hemp association in Poland, and he was talking about um they used to have like these booklets of different grades of decorticated, or not decorticated, but retted fiber. So basically it was just a visual aid that they would hold up to the fiber as it was being delivered to the mill, and then the farmers would get paid based on the color, because that would say if it was under retted, over retted, or perfect. And so similar to kind of how you know mills pay for corn, they measure the moisture content, and you don't want to pay for water, so you get paid depending on the moisture content. And so for the mills back in the day, and by back in the day I mean 1980s and previous, that's how people got paid, was based on the quality of their fiber. And so I wonder how they do it, for example, in at La Chanvrière in France, which is what I call the gold standard of hemp processing. I wonder how they grade fibers there. I would love to be able to somehow have a conversation with them, especially
Yeah,
on
for
this
sure.
platform, because
Yeah, would be great.
yeah,
I can invite them when I'm going there, of course, in Troyes. I
nice.
will also be visiting the facilities. There are field visits, so I will be going to La Chanvrière and Farm du Busio to check out the facilities there and to yeah, learn from the people how they're processing the hemp and how the whole structure is set up.
Right.
So,
Remind me again, what are the dates for that event?
the 19th and the 20th of November.
Hmm. Maybe I
Yeah.
will have to try to if all that stuff is going on, I think maybe it would make sense for me to go.
Yeah, yeah, it is the first edition of the Hemp Forum. So, to my knowledge, it's the first time the French hemp market is opening up yeah, for people of abroad with such a congress.
Yeah,
So,
they've been a little
for us,
reclusive.
uh, exactly, they have very big history and very big knowledge. And it's nice to yeah, come there as with the international hemp community as well, because everyone is very eager to learn from them and to work together and to see what is possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been
And
saying to people for a long time, like let's grow the pie. Let's not fight over the pieces. There's if you at least for me, like if you look at the global demand for plastic, the I mean, let's just say in general, the global demand, excuse me, the global demand for materials that could be replaced with essentially cellulose, right? So like most of what people are talking about with hemp, it's just cellulose at the end of the day. It's the fibers are cellulose, the herd are cellulose in some form. So but there's so many cool things that you can do with it, composites and fabrics and hempcrete and of course food and oil and stuff. But yeah, it's really going to be cool to have them open up because there's been so much loss and France has never stopped. Like out of everybody in Europe, I think France has been the most consistent historically over the centuries of not giving in to political pressure and still growing this plant, even though, at some point it was, for sure quite lower. But I think um, as rains continue to change, from what I understand from my French friends who are in the linen industry, the fiber yields have gone down by as much as 20% over the years for linen because it's less drought tolerant. And so, hemp's more drought tolerant. So I think we're going to see more, flax farmers going to hemp. And the other thing as well is you can grow hemp back to back year to year, year after year, but with flax, they say that you can only grow it in a field once every 7 years or something.
yeah, that is what I understood as well. Hemp is a beautiful rotating crop, and the flax can be planted on the same plot once every 7 years. So you have to have, yeah, in essence, you have to have 7 plots, which on which the flax is continuously rotating.
Right,
But if you have also hemp in the rotation, then you can get a lot more yield because, in essence, hemp can be planted on the same field every year without much soil degradation. But I believe 1 in 3 years is recommended.
right, right. Yeah, the speaking of like soil degradation, I have not gotten a follow-up yet from that researcher from the fiber conference who was talking about let's just say the liquor that you get from Reading, right? So obviously if you soak in sustainable agriculture, what we do is we run around the property and pick all the weeds, and then you put the weeds in a barrel and you add water and you ferment the weeds anaerobically without oxygen. Essentially mimics what's happening in the Reading process. It stinks like crazy. But you essentially um, what you eventually do though is you add um a oxygen stone to it and you start pumping oxygen into that barrel and you decant the barrel so that it's just pure liquid nutrients in the water. And so I was really hoping that that researcher could have told us the types of minerals and nutrients that were part of the water that was from the retting process. Obviously, it's good for fertilizer, but what is it good for? What's in it? Um, yeah, hemp's pretty interesting like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And especially if you're gonna work with it really in the ecosystem by yeah, creating healthy soil, yeah, taking care of the microbes within the soil, which can aid the growth of the hemp, and then afterwards can also aid in the retting of the hemp. So really making it circular, also possibly with yeah, with respect to the next follow-up crops that you already put nutrients in the soil, which aid the follow-up crop, so that yeah, it creates a synergy within the soil, which keeps adding up on each other and keeps improving. Because of course, the last 100 years we have been yeah, eating up the earth with as much as possible. We are all obese with earth
Right.
minerals, oils, and stuff. But we need to start feeding the earth again
Right.
to give the earth nutrients to help to grow, and then yeah, we can grow ourselves as well.
Yep. Yep. I completely agree. I think that's a good point to end this on. Um, this is It's been interesting so far. We are creating a list of people to bring on. Obviously, we both know lots of different people in the industry, and I want to try to get as many different characters on this as possible, talking about truth, lies, and legends, because we all know some. I think it'd be really cool if we could try to have some debates. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if there's some legends, there's going to be some people because I personally I'm all about being wrong. I like to learn. I don't really suffer from cognitive dissonance. If like when that researcher said to us like, "Hey, it's not as antimicrobial as you think." I asked for an explanation and then absorbed new information. I didn't, push back. Like if she's been researching hemp almost as long as I've been alive, and I'm almost 40. And she says something, and she says that she's read, hundreds of papers on the topic. Who am I to argue about it because I read it in a book somewhere or saw it on a blog or in a meme, you know?
Mm,
So,
exactly. And yeah, there have been a lot of lies already about hemp and cannabis and everything. So it's important to really be curious for the truth and to yeah, to search for the truth and to help to bring it to the wider knowledge and expand on the knowledge bases.
awesome. I completely agree. All right. Well, let's end it here, and we'll be back next time, I think, with a guest.
Yeah,
It'll either be me and a guest, or you and a guest, or us and multiple guests. I think there's not going to be a strict format. It's just going to be about learning.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, see you later, everybody, and thanks,
Bye.
Tom.
Bless up.